What you know about rolling down in the deep? When your brain goes numb, you can call a metal freeze. When these people talk too much, put that shit in slow motion, yeah. I feel like an astronaut in the ocean, yeah. What you know about rolling down in the deep? When your brain goes numb, you can call a metal freeze. When these people talk too much, put that shit in slow motion, yeah. I feel like an astronaut. She says that I'm cool. I'm like, yeah, that's true. I believe in G-O-D. Don't believe in T-H-O-D. She keep playing me down. I'ma play her for fun. Don't really know my mental. Let me give you the...
Hi, this is John Cullen. Welcome to another episode of Web of Deception. I'm joined once again by my co-host, Jason Goodman. Jason, thanks for joining me here on Web of Deception.
Hey, John. I'm glad we decided not to end it. Hey, by the way, do people, because sometimes there's people who are interested in some topics and not other. Is this the first Web of Deception where you are John Cullen revealed?
No, first Web of Deception. Yeah, last week we did the the director's commentary on the video.
Right, Thailand.
Yeah, and I wasn't wearing the glasses, but this is the first Web of Deception without the hat and the glasses. Yeah.
So there you go. Maybe people don't know, but they should check out subscribestar.com/I am John Cullen, patreon.com/I am John Cullen, all the sponsorship channels.
Indeed, and they should go over to
odyssey.com/crowdsource the truth, crowdsource the truth.substack.com, Subscribestar, Patreon, all that stuff. It's great.
Indeed. So what I wanted to do in this episode of Web of Deception is start trying to tie all this together. This is the 18th episode that we've done. Yeah. And we've got such an incredible cast of characters on the thumbnail. And we've done so many episodes already that kind of lead into this, because it seems that this is sort of the main mechanism and the main tactic that these guys have been using is this lawfare. And as a result, you got Mr. Miyagi'd. You know, it's like, who knew that, a guy from NYU film school, might have just as well spent 3 or 4 years over at NYU law school. So they end up Mr. Miyagi'ing you. You end up getting basically an education in law, unlike anybody's ever had to do. And now it's in the news. Now, 6 years later, because of what they're doing with Donald Trump, now everybody's talking about lawfare. You've been talking about it since before you came out to visit me in Thailand. Now, because of Donald Trump, everybody's talking about lawfare. And I don't know if anybody has been exposed to or subject to more lawfare in the last 5 or 6 years than you. So you look at, what was there? There was one case against Peter Navarro, and he's in prison. One case against Steve Bannon, he's in prison. You're like, one? I got 9 of them. Come on, bring it. So I think it's important for the audience now to start to understand how all these characters start to come together and the legal web that they start to weave, because this is where even former presidents of the United States, even billionaires, can only do so much in this web. And so why don't you start by taking us through who do we have in the thumbnail? And what I'd like to do is maybe go to your Odyssey channel. After you walk through the thumbnail, maybe we'll go to the Odyssey channel or the Johnny Hoover page and show people the former episodes, because this is where it starts to thread together into a tapestry. So let's start with the thumbnail. Who do we have here?
Well, as I'm looking at it, I'm actually remiss in this thumbnail. There's a lot of people who I should have included that I haven't, but let's explain who we've got here. This is Charles Dunlap Jr. He's, I think, a major general, retired from the Air Force, and he is basically the guy who has codified lawfare. You know, everybody thinks it's like a buzzword that you're hearing. Like you said, it's in the news now, you know, and obviously Trump is sitting there in court all pissed off, weaponized court. We get it. But you're right. We're going to talk in detail about what it is. And this guy here, Charles Dunlap, he says it's a 21st century weapon of war. So, you know, he's written papers about it and stuff. We'll look at that and talk about that. We've previously spoken about Valerie Caproni. She's been the FBI general counsel. She was an assistant U.S. attorney in the Eastern District of New York, where she pumped out real winners like Andrew Weissman, who in his own book says Valerie Caproni is his mentor. He signs a cooperation agreement with Felix Sater. Sater is a Russian mafia figure and a felon convicted of felony assault in 1998.
Allegedly with the mafia, but the conviction we know for sure.
He's
right?
admitted to that. No, he's
he admitted to the mafia
stuff.
thing?
Yeah.
Oh,
And
okay.
convicted of, you know, all kinds of money laundering schemes and stuff. But the point is, you know, these people are all associated, you know, since 1998, before I ever knew them. And of course, Lawfare is not just a buzzword. It's an institute. This is Ben Wittes. He is the director of the 501c3 public charity Lawfare Institute. And of course, Adam
We're going
Sharp.
to take a closer look. We're going to take a closer look at the Lawfare Institute in this show. Now, hang on, because Ben Wittes is a name that a lot of people associate with the Brookings, right? Brookings Institute. And so I guess Brookings doesn't pay that well, so he's got two jobs, or he's Jamaican. What do we got here? What's the story?
Making a lot of money from stealing these nonprofit funds.
Why does he need two jobs? He's working at Brookings and he's doing this Lawfare thing. Doesn't he also do that really strange podcast with that other dude and a chick, and it's called Stop In for Cheese or something? What the hell?
Yeah, he's got
there was
some
some
strange
YouTube podcast that was weird. It was like him, a girl, some other guy, and we tried to get their attention one day in the chat, and nothing.
Not having it.
No, not interested in chatting with us. So I was just curious that he's got like all these different jobs. You know, you would think Brookings pays pretty well, but all right. So that it is the same.
Somehow a subdivision. I don't really understand how this relationship works, but the Lawfare Institute is somehow related to Brookings.
We'll dig into it. We'll dig into that when we go to the patron-only portion. We'll dig into the Brookings and the Lawfare Institute relationship. It's just odd. I mean, watching Ben Wittes do these podcasts, it's just odd.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, and Norm,
moving on.
I should have put Norm Eisen in there, but, you know, we've got Adam Sharp, of course, who's a practitioner of Lawfare. Robert David Steele, who was my first entree to Lawfare. He was assisted by George's brother, who, of course, is the court jester.
Hang on. So people who don't know, Adam Sharp is the president of the National Academy Television Arts and Sciences, which are the people that give out the Daytime Emmy Awards and snubbed Susan Lucci for so long.
And news and sports. They give a lot of fake ones to ESPN.
Right. So the ESPN scandal, where ESPN was submitting just a bevy of names, that was Adam Sharp's organization. They were the ones who were making up the trophies for people that didn't really exist. And so that's another example of fake people. These aren't real people. They really weren't real people in the case of ESPN. But Adam Sharp not only worked at ESPN not only was involved in that with Nataz, but he used to be at Twitter. And when he was at Twitter, he was the political liaison and I think dance partner with Barack Obama in the 2009 Tango Championships. It appears from the photo. So he's an interesting character. You'll talk about that lawsuit. We talked about that. I think that was the last session we did. The last Web of Deception was Nataz and Adam Sharp and all that. So for those of you that didn't catch that, we get into how the National Academy Television Arts and Sciences attempts to sue. Was it Jason or Multimedia Systems?
We covered that last time.
Right.
But what I want to get into this
time
who he
is. People don't recognize him.
Yeah.
The next guy is former quote unquote CIA, right? Robert David Steele. And is he dead or alive? What is he?
I do believe he has faked his death, but again, that's a whole
He's
other
allegedly
story.
dead. He's
Yeah,
allegedly dead. He's allegedly
But
dead. This is Robert David Steele, former CIA agent.
yeah, and that falls into lawfare too. But the funny thing is, I think we're gonna, primarily be talking about how, I first discovered lawfare and how it really is the same people who are after President Trump that have been after me. And it's amazing how it came about, John, because do you know who Peter Smith is when I talk about him?
I know that there was some controversy. I know that there was like a suicide scenario, and somehow, I guess Charles got looped or pulled. I don't know. I don't really know the story. I don't know who Peter Smith is, to tell you the truth.
Right. See,
it's
that's
like
the thing. A lot of people
takes me
don't
back
know.
It takes me back to Howard Stern. Who are you and why are you famous? It's like, who is this guy? Why does anybody care
Well,
who's Peter
this
Smith?
is a great episode for us to do and a great place for us to start. And this was my entree to lawfare, and I didn't even know it. So Peter Smith is a GOP operative. He's a Republican political operative. He was, according to this article written by Shane Harris on June 29th, 2017, Peter Smith was trying to raise funds to pay Russian hackers to get stolen Hillary Clinton emails. And he makes all these vague references to maybe kind of sort of knowing General Flynn. And the reason I know about this is because I met Charles on June 30th, 2017, at a meeting set up by, guess who? So we have this meeting with Charles on June 30th, 2017. And Charles
Let me check my understanding. We have a meeting. So this is you, George Webb, Charles Ortel, and Peter Smith?
No.
Okay.
Peter Smith is dead already. Peter Smith dies May 2017, allegedly by suicide. And it does seem to be suicide. It might have been an assisted suicide. But Peter Smith is dead. I haven't heard anything about Peter Smith. We're having this first meeting with Charles, interview set up by George, and it's George, Trish, me, and Charles. First ever meeting with Charles, one day after this Wall Street Journal article is written by a guy named Shane Harris, who I've never met before, but Shane Harris calls Charles while we're all sitting down about to do this interview, and he's like a dick on the phone to Charles. And, Charles is not somebody who's into that. He's like, who the hell are you? Shane Harris is asking Charles, hey, what is your name doing on this document? Which we still haven't seen this document to this day. You're aware of this email that was sent by Benjamin Wittes to James Comey and Andrew McCabe, right? You've seen that.
Yeah, we've shown that to the audience, but it's important for you to share that again, because this was a bit of a mind-blowing bit of evidence. I mean, I remember when you shared this with me, I was kind of knocked out of my chair and really wanted to stop and take it in. Like this was kind of pivotal. Why don't you go over this for the people who aren't familiar with this? Why don't you review this for a second? This is worth taking a minute.
So this is a piece of evidence. See, people often refer to things that are sort of hearsay, which are not really evidence. This document has what's called a Bates stamp on it, and it's from the Senate Homeland Security and Government Accountability Committee. This is a piece of evidence from the FBI that the United States Senate has authenticated, and it's an email that's been sent initially from Benjamin Wittes, right here, who is a senior fellow and research director at the Brookings Institution. He's emailing James Comey. This is December 28th, 2016, while Peter Smith is still alive. And he's emailing Comey saying, hey there, blah, blah, blah. I have this document here that maybe you already know about it, but it's purports to be a series of reports and dispatches by a private British intelligence company on Trump and Russia. and it's been given to him by the Wall Street Journal. He even mentions Shane Harris right here by name. And so he's talking all about the same exact document that Shane Harris calls to speak to Charles about on this very first day that I meet Charles. And, you know, it's a whole lot of intrigue because I didn't know anything about Lawfare or Peter Smith or Benjamin Wittes or any of that. But they have this nonprofit Lawfare Institute. We'll look at that on the sponsor exclusive segment. That's more deep dive material.
Let me ask you a quick question. So the article that you pulled up a second ago that talks about this, you were showing us just a minute ago, an article with a picture of General Flynn. Does that talk about the fact that Peter Smith is dead? Does it mention that? It just says Peter Smith,
Absolutely,
the former.
It's all about that.
It does. Okay. All right.
That's so laying it out that he's committed. That's where it's telling you that he's committed suicide. Here we go. Yeah. So this is okay. This is telling you that, oh, you know, he's looking for these emails and he committed suicide in a hotel. And there was a note that said, oh, no foul play. Just give my family the life insurance money. I mean, it's the most bizarre, ridiculous thing. And then Chris Boozy, I didn't know this until years later, but Chris Boozy is commenting on Shane Harris's Twitter saying, ooh, this is suspicious. So how the hell do all these guys know each other? Then they get involved in lawsuits with me. They're working for the Lawfare Institute, writing articles for the Lawfare Institute. And I mean,
I didn't kill my wife, but if I did, this is how I would do it. This is
how I would do it. Yeah. There's a lot of evidence coming out now about OJ. Did you know that? There's this guy, Todd.
No. All right, but hang on. Let's stay on topic with this because I'm still trying to comprehend this and take all this stuff in. So you're getting ready to sit down for an interview. It's you, Trish, George Webb, and you're just getting introduced to Charles. So it's the first time with Charles. It's at your apartment, I'm guessing, right?
No.
It's where you're
World Financial Center down in Public by the boats.
Okay. I know the area well. I know it very well. And Charles gets a phone call. Now, is Shane Harris like Vice or Vox or one of those? Is he one of those key guys? Who is Shane Harris? Who is this guy?
Wall Street Journal at that time and now Washington Post. But I mean, that's what I'm saying. It's not like it's like Cy Hirsch or Carl Bernstein or somebody like calls you up and you know who he is. Charles is like, you know, who the hell are you calling me up saying all this stuff? He's got some document that says that Charles is involved. So this is this document that is the demonstrative, pedagogical. We did eventually get some pages of it. Right. That guy, Jonathan Sagagobian, sent me pages of it. Did I ever release that to people? I mean, the thing is, this is like the years-long mystery that started it all. And it literally is the Lawfare Institute that did it. Now, actually, see, finding this original Charles video, how do I do it? Because there's so many Charles videos here. I think it was called Meet Charles Ortel. But the point is, we're down at the World Financial Center just speaking to Charles, and he gets this phone call. And, I mean, you know, it seems very set up now in retrospect, because George knew we were down there. It was days after this Port of Charleston thing happened. Charles was doing all this research into the Clinton Foundation, and that was going to bleed into the Obama Foundation. See, what's important about what Charles has done is that he basically uncovered that the Clintons were using this particular series of tactics to engage in charity fraud, to have these 501c3 charities that can have all kinds of identity duplexed, you know, similar sounding names with multiple bank accounts where all kinds of deposits can be made in confusing accounting, and they control the IRS and they never get investigated, and they can just launder and steal tons and tons of money like that. And Charles, I think, originally sort of was talking about this, about the Clinton Foundation at a time when not too many other people understood that this was a thing. And what we've learned in the 7 years since, you know, we were approaching Charles to interview him about this, about his research into the charity frauds at the Clinton Foundation. Nobody understood what was going on at that time. And he articulated all that. And what we've learned since then is that it's not just the Clinton Foundation. It seems to be an entire underground financial network of criminals who fund their activities through nonprofits, including the Lawfare Institute and the National Academy of Television Arts and Sciences. I mean, millions of dollars have been spent trying to destroy Crowdsource the truth, and these guys are able to do it with funds that are subsidized by taxpayers. It's outrageous.
I was watching an episode that you did with Charles where you guys were digging into, what is it, Matt Schlapp? What's his name?
Yeah, Matt Schlapp.
His organization? Matt Schlapp's organization. And what a mess the accounting was. And I was watching the episode, and Charles is like, yeah, if you turn to page 16 and you go to the little box that says 5617A,
right.
Whoa, man, he was on top of it. It was amazing. And just when he pulled the curtain back, it's like, oh my God, this is a house of cards. This is wild. There's nothing here. It was crazy. So, and didn't Charles write a book about GE? Didn't he?
Well, I don't know if he wrote a book about it, but he was the one who discovered that there was accounting fraud going on at GE. So that's the thing. It's like, as I'm getting older, I'm realizing that you look back and it's like, whoa, that was 20 years ago. But to Charles, it was like he remembers when new types of like derivatives were coming out and different kinds of trading, like when they transitioned from people screaming on the trading floor to computers doing it and all that. So, he sort of discovered these sort of things that we now all take for granted and understand how the financial, mechanism of how this money is being stolen. So he's really explained it very clearly now. And over the 7 years that he and I have known each other since this episode started, this whole Lawfare, and it's the Lawfare Institute, by the way, that's after me. It's these people specifically that are trying to, jam me up. Felix Sater, remember, was the only other client of Jonathan Snyder, my attorney in the lawsuit with the Emmys. So this is a tight-knit crew of people who have done a lot of very specific things that
Jonathan Snyder's not on the thumbnail, but Jonathan Snyder's another character. Another character in the story, right?
So put a lot more people on this thumbnail.
He was your attorney, but he was, and then he backs out of the picture. Help people understand what happened there. That was a little bit odd.
Well, I mean, when we want to talk about lawfare as a verb, as an activity, there's a bunch of different things that people want to achieve in lawfare, and controlling your attorney is a key to lawfare. Like, look at Michael Cohen. He's turned on Trump. I think there's evidence that suggests that he might have been setting Trump up from the beginning. And again, that's a key move in lawfare. But this is Jonathan Snyder. He was introduced to me by Jared Beck, who, in retrospect, was introduced to me by George Webb. So that's interesting. And I forgot about that because, introduced to me by George Webb, it was just a story we were covering together. And years after I never spoke to George anymore, I still communicated with Jared and Elizabeth Beck and considered them friends and everything. And when I got this lawsuit against a company that I thought was going to be construed as my company, I called Jared and he recommended I get this lawyer. Really what he should have said, what Snyder should have said was, oh, you haven't been served yet, so don't do anything until you're served. This is not legal advice and I'm not an attorney, but that would have been sound advice instead of going headlong into this lawsuit. And then, yes, he ultimately withdrew, left me in a very, very bad situation. But his client was Felix Sater, who in 1998, Felix Sater signed a cooperation agreement. With Andrew Weissman, who, as I said, in his own book, says this is a criminal cooperation, criminal case from 1998, cooperation agreement signed with the Department of Justice, Andrew Weissman. supervising U.S. attorney right there, Felix Sater right there.
All right, so help people understand the connection now between Andrew Weissman and Valerie Caproni.
So Valerie Caproni, in the late 80s, was the head of the organized crime division in the U.S. Attorney's Office in the Eastern District of New York, which is Brooklyn and all that. And Weissman was also in that office as an assistant U.S. attorney. And he says in his book, she was his mentor. So he is the one signing the agreement with Sater, who is my attorney's client. Caproni today is the judge in the Lawfare case from the Emmys against me. And, you know, this all started because I was investigating, you know, Ben Wittes and all this stuff about Peter Smith.
But Robert David Steele launches a lawsuit, right? So you've got the Robert David Steele lawsuit. You got Ben Wittes coming at you from the flank. And then there's the whole story with the Devin Nunes attorney and how that guy gets
represented Robert David Steele. That's Stephen Biss. He was representing Robert David Steele. I mean, it's a convoluted network of crazy people.
I mean, Biss is another one that must have sort of, you know, you have to put something around Biss. Biss is the attorney for Devin Nunes, the former head of the Congressional National Security something. I mean,
how could this have happened so close to the port of Charleston and not be somehow related to that as well? All these people are related to all these things, and this is 2 weeks after the port of Charleston. George sets up the meeting.
I'm more interested in to me, that's less pointed than the fact that this story is printed by the Wall Street Journal. And
there's so much more to that.
Charles is getting the phone call the next day from Shane Harris, the author of the Wall Street Journal article, is calling Charles Ortel 24 hours after publishing as Charles Ortel is sitting with you.
Well, not only that, then
you're telling me that wasn't orchestrated by George?
Well, hang on. And the same day that we meet Charles, hours later, so Friday, June 30th, Matt Tate writes for Lawfare. He's writing about that time I got recruited to collude with the Russians. So he is corroborating the Shane Smith.
Who's Matt Tate?
This is Matt Tate. He's a fellow at the Lawfare Institute. He's a guy who works for Ben Wittes. He's a British GCHQ retired.
Former.
Right, that's what he says. But he's like 30 at the time of this.
Oh, yeah, I know.
Why would he retire at 30?
I don't think any of them are retired. All right, so this is interesting. So all this is happening. Charles gets the phone call. Charles gets agitated because he's like, "Who the hell are you? What the hell are you talking about? Get out of here."
They're trying to frame Charles as being involved with Peter Smith because remember, after they're trying to set it up so that Charles is telling Corsi to do something with WikiLeaks. This is when they're trying to jam Trump up with the Mueller investigation. And Andrew Weissman first signs an agreement with Felix Sater in 1998 when he's an assistant U.S. attorney, and Sater is a felon. He's a felony assault convict. And so they say, okay, you can sign this agreement with us and become a confidential human informant for the FBI.
I love that. I love that you have the receipts, but I'm afraid we're running out of time here. We're going to have to pick up this conversation over with our patrons. For those of you who are not yet a patron, this is an unbelievable story here. You're talking about the former general counsel at the FBI, who's now a judge, and her entire...
Weissman was also general counsel at the FBI, 2 former general counsels, and the handoff to Baker. It goes Caproni, Weissman, Baker in general counsel at the FBI. That all goes to Twitter. And remember, Adam Sharp is suing me. I'm bringing out all this Twitter stuff. This also goes into the Elon Musk lawsuit. I mean, it's an amazing lawfare nest. Lawfare, counter lawfare. It's astounding.
It's wild. And once again, I really think that this Devin Nunes attorney, the guy who had the stroke, the Stephen Biss guy, is another fascinating character, and we have to really dig into him, but we're out of time. So for those of you who've been sponsoring me and not yet sponsoring Jason, please head over to either subscribestar.com or patreon.com/crowdsource the truth, or go to odyssey.com/@crowdsource the truth, where he's got all the legacy material. It's just an unbelievable library of videos there. And if you're not yet supporting me, you know where to go. There's only two choices. So do the right thing. I'm John Cullen. This has been Web of Deception. Thanks for joining.
It's one small step for man. What you know about rolling down in the deep? When your brain goes numb, you can call a mental freeze. When these people talk too much, put that shit in slow motion. Yeah, I feel like an astronaut in the ocean. What you know about rolling down in the deep? When your brain goes numb, you can call a mental freeze. When these people talk too much, put that shit in slow motion. Yeah, I feel like an astronaut in the ocean. She says that I'm cool. I'm like, yeah, that's true. I believe in G-O-D. Don't believe in T-H-O-T. She keep playing me down. I'ma play her for fun. You don't really know my mental. Let me give you the picture like stencil. Falling down in the drought. No flow rain was pouring down. See that pain was all around. See my mom was kinda loud. Didn't know which way to turn. Flow was cool, but I still felt burned. Energy up, you can feel my surge. I'ma kill everything like this burn. It's one small step for man. What you know about